You're watching clips from Entities out of the Unveiling set, fully available and finished right now today at godinanutshell.com. You're watching clips from merely the intro, mind you, of Entities, the beginning. What do you say we just dive straight in to the Lord of the Rings style? Genesis 6:4. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days. That is, of course, a reference to the pre-flood world.
As you probably tell, I came out of hardcore gangbanging and stuff like that, of the mob life, before I got saved.
Yes, because I have inherited demons from my family in France. They were in masonries. You know masonries?
Yes, sir.
Mason.
And also after that, meaning the world which came directly following the flood. Did you?
He saw demons.
I saw the pit.
And demons.
It says, I will return to my house, which means the body, from which I came.
So clearly they're remnants of older culture that had some kind of sophisticated technology, but they won't recognize that in general.
And I saw the little demons next to me that I used to think were aliens, but they're demons.
So these creatures, and you saw these things physically manifest.
Yes.
That's what they were beckoning to step back in at the Tower of Babel, or the gate of their God. When the sons of God, Beneha Elohim, went in to the daughters of men and bore children by them.
Even the archaeologists here that I've talked to admit that they have no idea where they came from. They simply appeared, developed a sophisticated civilization, and then were wiped out by a regional culture that moved in on them. But they are the largest skulls in the world, the most complicated ones, and academics, as far as I know, have no clue where they came from.
So there was an old woman, she was a little bit, she had mental issues, and she was sort of walking around the cemetery, and then around the cemetery, suddenly she found this very strange creature alive. Yeah? The creature was alive. So she took it home.
Okay, so, and the eye sockets on these, they seem larger. Look at that, they're significantly larger than the other one. And whenever you're looking at an alien image, or the bodies that these things may be speculatively trying to recreate, the eyes are large. This strange little guy here in the physician's hands was found over here in the Atacama Desert in Chile. And this little slimy character, zoomed in on right here, found in the same areas as the elongated skulls surrounding the blood sacrificial, literal megalithic towers to the serpent. He likes branding his name on stuff from here to Timbuktu, but also looks strikingly similar, if not nearly identical. This little dude here, being held in Ripley's hand from Ripley's Believe It or Not. And this little thing here, which Ripley called Ottaboy for the Atacama Desert, is found in the same area as this thing here. I gotta be straight with you, I'd be really uncomfortable if I saw this thing run across the hallway in a dark room, or saw it in some kind of a science aquarium beating on the glass saying, let me out, let me in. That would make me pretty uncomfortable to see this dude alive with a little dagger in his mouth.
I can say with absolute certainty that it is not a monkey, which basically leaves us with a very strange conundrum, right? Here you've got this 6-inch tall, let's call it human, right? Because the DNA says that so far it's human, at least the way that we're looking at it.
But they did a medical examination, and they found out that the bones were fully formed. It certainly wasn't a baby. It certainly wasn't a premature baby of any shape or form. So the anatomy was quite different, and they ascertained, or they supposed, or came to the conclusion that the bones were fully formed.
It lived to the age of 6 to 8. Obviously, it was breathing, it was eating, it was metabolizing, and it wasn't living in an environment where there was a lot of advanced medical attention that was given to it to allow it to live to that age.
And that was a grown thing, yeah, whatever it is. I mean, it wasn't an animal, it wasn't human, so that thing was grown, fully grown. That's a conclusion they came to.
Now, if we rewind all the way backwards to the beginning in the garden, God had given Adam everything, but then the moment when something changed, the Bible goes out of its way to describe to you exactly what occurred. There were 3 parts to this that are all going to correspond with the parts of the human construct. It says that when Eve perceived the fruit on the tree that the serpent was offering,
The guru that I was following had serpent images all over the ashram.
it was attractive to the eyes, temptation of the flesh, that it was good to make one wise.
Serpents would actually be in that place and sleep with him in the bed and be all around in that area. And he would just say that this energy here is so great that it attracts the good energy of the serpent.
Number 2, a temptation of the intellect. And number 3, the really big one. Do you have some background with witchcraft and the demonic, and you have an understanding of these things deeper than most, probably? Can you share a little of that with me? Dimensional come-all be-all trick. Ye shall be as gods.
Serpent force, and it's commonly known to be dormant in the base of the spine, and then when it moves its way up like a serpent through you.
I've seen a lot of it when I was in Africa, but there it was just straightforward. People knew what they were letting themselves in for, or they knew it wasn't aliens, but...
It supposedly creates enlightenment, the third eye is opened.
Okay.
And so that's why in Hinduism, originally, that's why people wear the dot right in this area.
I had the third eye open, and then I got to black magic, which means to hurt people and to kill people at a distance.
They knew they were dealing with people from the other side, or entities from the other side, not people, entities from the other side.
Houston, we have a problem, something that has broken through all 3 fail-safes and appears to be disguised to make entrance as a being of light, slithering its way in the downward spiral right into you and I's reality.
And they encounter, something which looks like aliens, but really what they're doing is they're entering into the spiritual world, and they're meeting demonic entities.
And it appears that what they're trying to do is they're trying to learn how to build their own bodies, because if they go into a human body, then they run the risk of meeting someone like me who's going to send them to the pit of hell.
I think this is the part where you may want to buckle your seatbelts. This ride goes upside down a lot. He was living with the woman for about 3 weeks, and she's feeding this thing. What were they feeding it?
Sweets, like boiled sweets or caramelized sweets.
Straight in. Look at the size on the back of the head of this thing here from the Morton collection. The biological madhouse. The same were the mighty men that were of old.
And sweet cheese. So that was only the 2 things she was feeding the thing. Bearing in mind, the woman had mental issues, yeah.
Welcome to entities, biological and dimensional, spiritual and archaeological roller coaster. Without further ado, shall we begin? It has no natural shape to it. A lot of people would argue that it's head binding, but I think that argument has pretty well been
This suture line here doesn't exist whatsoever.
spelled at this point.
Well, here's the thing with the head binding is you would have parietal plates here, and you would have a seam going over this here, which they don't.
You know, I've shown these skulls to a number of doctors, foreign doctors and Peruvian doctors and nurses.
Where my finger is, there's some kind of like the hearing area would be, but it's totally unique. On the other side, if you turn it over here, it's exactly the same. It's as though that's where its hearing apparatus was, whatever it had, bone structures or whatever, but there's nothing there. It's not like us where we have ear canals. It's completely different.
Well, let's do them one at a time again. So this one here that you're holding, this is the human one that we've got up in front of us.
Other medical professionals, and none of them can explain why that suture line isn't there.
And on this particular skull, so I've got the two parietal plates, and this is a normal human head. It's got the two parietals, and you can see that seam is about as clear as day. If you were doing the boarding thing, could a suture line, in these people's opinion, or have you heard, can a suture line disappear?
No, it can't.
It is skull again, and there are no parietal plates.
Okay, now that's fascinating right there, because that is, I mean look at that, the entire top of the head right there. Yeah.
So you will always, even in an old person, you'll always see part of the suture there.
So what you're telling me is that asteroids are probably a product of rocks literally being catapulted and spitted out violently when
by the fountains of the Great Deep that launched the rocks that once they get into outer space and away from the Earth's gravity, and in an environment where there's a lot of gas, a lot of water vapor, they will come together and merge. And so you will start forming in the years after the flood these comets and asteroids.
There's clearly there's something genetically different about this creature's head that you're holding in your hand, but it's a humanoid head.
Halley's Comet is one of them, Tuttle is another. When you work them back in time, they converge on the Earth with a statistically significant date, significant at the 99th percentile.
And that date would be what?
You can work that back in time, and that gives you an astronomical fix for the most likely date of the flood.
Most, not all, but most of the weird stuff that you're finding throughout all of these ages, the weird little stuff that we find all here, there, and all over the place underneath the ground, comes from after the global flood.
It could be a few years on either side of that date. At one sigma level, about 100, give or take 100 years. But that places the flood about 5,000 years ago, or more specifically, 3,190 years BC, 3,290 BC.
And when they do genetic testing on this stuff, and it comes out sideways, they have actually invested to have this, at least one of the skulls, or maybe several of the skulls, tested, and the results were unusual. Is that fair?
Yeah.
The sideways part of it, usually the mother, the female part of it, is going to be from whatever the local culture is, and whatever it is in there that's twisted or askew is going to come from the father's side. And when looking at the teachings of the fallen angels in the book of Enoch, what you're going to find is Jesus is comparing the judgment that will come from this to the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. That these exact sets of teachings that come from these fallen angels prior to the flood are one by one being reinstituted into our world today, leading to the final one. Jesus in Matthew 24 is comparing the time just before his second coming to be as it was in the days of Noah, the rise of technology, the real mind bender, and genetic abominations. This would be the days extend to include the time both before the flood and slightly after the flood. the first little tower, and all the little towers in between, stringing to the towers of Lord Vishnu, who here holding the serpent in the masculine and feminine form, the Shiva with the third eye, of course the tongue sticking out right there. That old tongue seeming to stick out right now, even to today, in the technological towers of this modern age, where we still seem to be paying homage to the dark underworld gods. And the symbolism for towers means something a lot larger in scope than buildings full of business people working to feed their families and pay their mortgage payments. Just like technology in and of itself certainly isn't evil. It all depends on what one plans to reach out and unleash with it, leading to your technological empire, which is a very religious empire.
That's what happens. You got your little meth pipe in your hands that you're smoking it out of. Take one hit, your whole room changes.
To tell you about the first time I had an encounter with a DMT entity or an alien.
Colors change. Colors become brighter. You get patterns everywhere. It looks futuristic, but you could tell you're still in your room.
Look, I'm not against the study of majesty of the human mind or the field of psychology entirely. But I quite frankly don't care what the therapist down the street says with his $200 an hour materialism manual on how to explain that it's all in your head. Everybody from even right now today, not just in the biblical text, but everything from shamanism to occultism and paganism in the pages of their texts, all the way back to the dawn of time, have known that the mind, the conscious construct, the real you, is the quickest gateway, doorway into a dangerous, deadly, and deceptive realm.
And then a cube just gets dropped in front of me and it starts spinning. And this cube is covered in like samurai faces, like ancient history, like faces.
The first two times were pretty standard. Took the DMT down the hyperspace portal into the DMT realm.
It's like all machine, and on these arms, these like little lever things, these are what are called the machine elves, as everyone talks about, I'm pretty sure.
But this time it happened different. Took about 70 milligrams of DMT. Lay down on the sofa, shut my eyes, but didn't go down the portal into the DMT realm.
Your physical material body, this earthen vessel, which you get to decide what you're going to fill it with, this machine, this biological spacesuit, is what you are operating in this construct of this material world, which you're running loose in. One of these, you are consciously controlling the entire machine. You are a spiritual being operating in a biological spacesuit. And these two eyes right here, you don't see with these eyes are majestic cameras. They are apparatus on the machine. They are collecting the data, which is passing through the optic nerve guy in here, getting translated by the majesty, most amazing computer on earth, and then consciously getting translated into images in the mind.
I felt the physical effects of the DMT coming on, but I remained in the living room, and even though my eyes shut, I can see the living room.
In short, when you're opening the mind's eye up here, you were never seeing with your eyes to begin with. They were just collecting data in the material world. The information coming in was being seen by your consciousness. When you are taking in the pharmakia, the ancient witchcraft, They go into other realms.
Perfectly, exactly how it was. This humanoid alien creature, probably about 6 foot tall, and it was just standing in the middle of the room.
There was like 5 of them looking at me.
And it had a big elongated head.
And these are the skulls of the spirits, the so-called souls that are roaming the earth without bodies, haunting people. They're haunting the houses. This is what their skull looks like.
When your bedroom becomes the bedroom plus some other place, and then those 2 dimensions turn into 2 separate places, the other dimension you are looking at is real.
And it looks like they were trying to do this. They're trying to do like, ooh, we're scary, ooh. They're trying to like spook me.
It was like glitching. It's like moving around like this, and it sort of starts staring at me.
Scary version number 1 is the DMT, the ayahuasca, the pineal gland, the third eye begins to open, combined with the vision of the flesh, and the 2 worlds seem as one, that the thing standing in the room, the thing's now becoming visible with the eyes, were there in the house the entire time.
We've now got this 6 foot tall, grotesque alien living with us. I just thought, what happens if it doesn't go, it decides to stay?
And it's all telepathy or whatever. It talks to you. I know it sounds crazy. And the basic things it was saying, these 2 Jekyll creatures that were spinning around with their hats tied together, they were saying.
So it was corkscrewing up in there, you say, like the dual twisted serpents of the Kundalini. Now notice the common imagery here, where you've got one side, you got the human side, and then you've got the thing controlling the human side. There's also the symbolism that you're going to see in your rock stars, your movie stars, sometimes, not all of them. And note this for the record, Satan doesn't own the symbolism here any more than he actually owns the goat. Doesn't own anything. He's got a short temporary lease. He likes to use stuff that God's made. The dark side operating through the flesh. And of course, the serpent has wiggled his way up to the mind from which he is peering out into our world and created another network resource out of the person. Here's, of course, a common drawing of the chakras awakening all the way up to the top to become part of that universal consciousness that is trying to plug in there. And by the way, when you hear the folks that get on stage and they say something else takes over, what a surprise. Right down here, you see in the common imagery, you see the up from abyss, the abuso, the dark place, the place of chaos coming up through the earth. Notice the earth is over the sex organ. That's where it wants to be birthed forth into, wiggling its way all the way up the spine, where the eye is going to look out. Always the eye looking forth into the natural world. And of course, from its perspective, its point of view, the thing coming up from chaos, it has budded from the darkness into a flower on top. That's why the symbolism of the ancient Egyptians, of course, was a lotus flower coming forth from chaos, or after the flood, the abuso, and birthing forth. Symbolism on all of this stuff is so redundant. It's all there right in front of you. But the man said it was 2 things swinging around like they were corkscrewing up in there. I wonder what they were trying to screw inside of, or perhaps who they were trying to corkscrew inside of. And these things look like jackals. Jackals like what? Maybe jackals like this, like Anubis, the god of the dead. The Egyptians, they saw Anubis all the time. There's Pharaoh right there. Of course, he's peering into the other realm through the eye of Horus, or the eye of Ra. We're peering forth from the third eye up here into the other realm. There's Anubis and there's the god Horus. In fact, while we're running our empire, we're getting advice from these gods. They're running the Pharaoh. That's what God King means. Not only is he there for the visualizations, but apparently when the body fails and you're not connected to it by Wi-Fi and going for road trips out there floating loose into the other side for a minute, when that body fails, apparently, at least from the Egyptians' point of view, all over their walls, Anubis is still standing there when the world that you've walked into, whether it's an after-death experience or it's one of these visualizations of the DMT realm, the other realm, that it becomes more real than real, the super HD, almost like this place isn't quite as real as that futuristic place of amazement. Well, apparently, from their point of view, Anubis is still waiting to take you by the hand and lead one into serpent world. And at that point, it really gets ugly. Scary version number 2, the shining serpent sitting there looking for something to wiggle and twist up into, sitting on the Greek pillar, because the word demon, of course, means wisdom. We tend to indicate that the thing standing there was not only there the whole time, but it was waiting for you.
You look like a number 7 standing up, arms and legs.
Time, it was like laughing with me and saying, "It's okay, man. Like, go. Let's play. This is like a fun role play house thing."
And it starts glitching towards me like this, and then it comes right up close, starts looking at me.
Through the heart of the eye of the evil dimensional watcher, branding himself in earth and stone, and just behind the eye in the underworld, the dimensional trolls examining mankind as if he were merchandise that they desired to own, as if the earth itself were a chessboard with lots of little human pawns, many of which, scratch that, all of which the Goat King is willing to sacrifice to the fire. Human sacrificial sites to the dark and serpent gods. There's a Lizard King right up here. He'd prefer you not look at all that and pay attention to, come on in, man, look at the shiny dazzle of our golden third-eyed idols with the wings on their sides and the magical serpents coming forth. In fact, the thing just behind the golden mask of the owls and serpents. Ride the snake right down the downward spiral, the technological looking space portal, the rabbit hole into the Abuso. I know we operate like a computer virus, look like bugs. Come on, we're just aliens. We want to have a good time, make you feel tingly and good. And we come bearing gifts. Just read the messages on our sun discs. Follow the spiral towards the ancient sun god, Ra, the falcon, the crow, the Aztec and Mayan, Master Hilarion at the center of the circle, his tongue out, laughing at you. Insects, locusts, ready to devour, but don't think of it like that. Don't think of it like that at all. Think of it like a playhouse for you to come into. After all, we're wisdom creatures. Have you not read? Our employer, Pan, the great god Nothing, king of demons and owner of goats, is waiting, and he needs your help. Have you not read our books of wisdom accompanied with our idols? Who do you think comes bearing you these great gifts? We're the builders behind the scenes of your technological towers. I mean, after all, we've been the true face behind the mask of all your empires, from the pyramids of Egypt to the towering temples of South America, still stained with the blood of men, all the way to the pockets of cannibalistic tribes in the Amazonian outback, where they'll still carry you away, kill you, and eat you. Maybe not necessarily even in that particular order. The ingestion of the drug to weaken the mind, combined with extra repetitive rhythm, usually of some type of tribal drum.
This past weekend, I had the opportunity to be a part of a very sacred peyote ceremony.
This combined with the drug allows the entrance of the thing behind the scenes.
One of the most incredible experiences I've ever experienced. You know, being half naked with a bunch of people all sweating. Well, it doesn't sound that great, but it's not the way you think of it.
Arriba, arriba. Come on.
The rhythmic beating of the drums combined with the drug to create the trance, liquefied mind, or a zombified rising from the abyss state, is whether the person knows that they're doing a ritual or not. This is video from the day of 9/11, the day the towers fell. Or some spirits moving that day.
Barack Obama sold himself to America as the multicultural ideal.
Right at the point of being told America was under attack, the book placed in President George Bush's hand to read, the book the teacher gave him.
A man who stood above politics. His father was a goat herder from Kenya, so he would bring people together.
Was titled My Pet Goat.
The drums that they play and the music, it's got so much depth and so much soul, but once it hit her in the wrong way, it was like a demon, which is a good thing, but but at the time it's not really seen as a good thing.
And the book, My Pet Goat, was placed in his hands that morning upside down.
The pet goat. Yes, the pet goat.
And as planes hit buildings and towers began to fall, the children read.
Read these words the fast way. Get ready. Play. Yes, playing. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Get ready. Kit. Yes, kit. Get ready. Steal. Yes, steal. Get ready. Play. Yes, playing. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Get ready. Kit. Yes, kit. Get ready. Steal.
It wants to watch the goats scream because it likes the blood. It loves the sacrifice. It can get a little bit intense, never too far. But it ends well. They all end well. And each one of these is more than 2 hours and 20 minutes long, each one. And the goal for the last number of years working on each one of these has been to make a set of documentaries unlike anything in the entire world. We met that over and over and over. And that's not the Hollywood guys saying, not that there's anything, I'm stating that. The debate of, is the supernatural real, is over. You're gonna see it. Enoch, and that is the mother of all Enoch documentary breakdowns, including pre-flood stuff. Entities, the beginning, that is littered with a mixture of the supernatural combined with archaeological stuff that should not be. And, of course, entities, the unveiling. We're going to go for the most unusual ride on all Earth. Are you ready? that's where you're going to see quite a few. Lots. The little things from the other side physically manifest. Things I'm definitely quite certain that you're not going to find anywhere else. Whole set is designed to flow together. Thank you for watching Entities by the God in a Nutshell Project. God bless every last one of you on the other side of the screen. What did you catch on? You were doing time lapses. What did you catch on film?
I was trying to capture this lighthouse.
And that I remember to mention that they look absolutely amazing on a coffee table. Now, was Enoch clear back before the flood? Same one writing right here about the origin of demons, who said, these words are not for my generation, but for a remote one, which is for to come, the last generation. Those are some bold words.